There we go. I want to just kind of introduce myself. Jessica, my social lady. I have 3 children. I have a stepdaughter that's 22. I have a 9-year-old who I'm actually in the process of redoing my entire office for because she's going to become homeschooled, which is a new adventure. And then I have a 3-year-old as well. So that's my little family. My husband is a financial advisor, and they have a lot of regulation in what they can and can't post on social media. So typically there are 2 areas of content that I shy away from. I'm not scared of them, but it's just more work, is financial industry because of their regulations. And then in terms of real estate, because, and we don't have any realtors in the room, but if you're watching this as a real estate agent, you likely want results yesterday. And that can be a very, very difficult thing to live up to. And so I like to caution people with social media management is different than social media marketing. Social media management truly is managing the content that's being pushed out. So that's the social posts, that's the comments that come in, responding to reviews, that sort of things. That's social media management. And then the other side of that is going to be social media marketing. That's kind of putting fuel behind the fire to really boost your content further, to get to new audiences, to generate leads, to bring in new clients. So that's kind of the difference. And we'll talk a little bit about that further on. So the first question that I always get is, what network should I be on? So I'm going to share a little bit of statistics about these few networks. You'll notice there's a couple that aren't on here. Okay. The first one that's not on here is Twitter. And I leave Twitter off for this shortened version, because if you're not creating 8 to 10 tweets a day, you become irrelevant on Twitter. And so that becomes really difficult to create that much content and continue to push that out. Twitter is also really popular for larger businesses for their listening. So they can listen for people that have complaints and things like that. Twitter, if you don't have one as a small business, if you don't have one currently, I wouldn't recommend adding one unless there's a specific reason for it. So I'm going to kind of skip over that one. I'm also going to skip over one of the newest ones is TikTok, because it's so new. There's a lot of things that we don't know about it. There's a lot of experimentation and things that are happening right now on TikTok. If you'd like to talk about TikTok one-on-one, I'd love to talk with you. So let's move on to Facebook. So these are some general numbers just about Facebook in general. Lots of users. The audience is almost 50-50, and it does lean a little bit older. So 84% are between 30 and 49. But then I wanted to include this image here. This is from an actual client's page, and this shows that their particular audience, meaning that the people that like their page, are 72% female. So just because the overall population of Facebook is one way doesn't mean that your particular audience is another way. All of this data can be found in the Insights tab of your Facebook business, like the back end, the settings side. The next one is Instagram. Instagram does lean a little bit younger. So you'll see 72% of teens use Instagram, 32% of internet users between 25 and 34 use it. So it does lean a little bit younger. It also is much more visual because a photo is required in order to post on Instagram. Again, the same thing can apply here. So it's 52% females, a little more lean, toward the female side, 42% male. However, again, this is a screenshot from a client. This is the insights on their Instagram account, and it is 69% women. And their audience, you'll see it kind of falls in right in line with what we've talked about, is a little bit younger here, but there's still a good representation of an older generation as well. And I say older, they just happen to be older than me. I'm 36. So that's my point of reference. When I say older, I don't mean old like you're 70 years old. You're just older than 36. That's it. The next one is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great for B2B, business to business. And so LinkedIn makes up more than 50% of all social traffic to B2B websites and blogs. If you do not currently have a LinkedIn profile for you specifically, I highly recommend that you have one. I know that most of you are B2B servicers. And then the other piece of that is also having a business page that you can then create content, you can run ads and so forth on LinkedIn as well. Leans a little more male, but again, that might depend on your particular audience. The last one, oh, there's two more. Google My Business. Google My Business is less of a social media platform and more of one of my non-negotiables. So if you were to ask me, where do I need to be? The two non-negotiables for me are Facebook and Google My Business. If you want to add more than that, wonderful. But those are the two non-negotiables for a new business or somebody that's just getting on social media. 84% of searches are from discovery, meaning that they're searching a piece of content. They're searching, I'm looking for a plumber near me. I'm looking for an attorney near me. I'm looking for an IT professional near me. That's the kind of discovery that brings you new business. So 34% of local businesses are seen more than 1,000 times in discovery searches every month. It's huge. People are most likely to call from Google My Business between 10 and 12, 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., so noon. Google My Business listings have an average of 11 photos, so make sure that you have some photos on there. And then the last piece is that many businesses leave their listing unclaimed. So you may have a business listing out there that is open to the information that's contributed by users, and it could be incorrect information. So that's another piece that I highly recommend people claiming their page or creating a page for their business so that they can control and make sure that the content that's out there, the information, the hours, the website, all of that information is correct and up to date. All right, the last one is YouTube that we're going to cover today. Again, lots of users, 2 billion users. 70% of YouTube watch time comes from mobile devices. 62% of users are male, so it is slightly higher in terms of that demographic. And the 35 plus and 55 plus age groups are faster growing in YouTube. Used to be 10 years ago, somebody would say, well, how do you do something? And nobody really knew. Now it's you Google it or you YouTube it and you can watch a video and learn just about anything. And even my grandmother, who is much older, she'll YouTube things. She'll listen to what I learned. She's just amazing how much information and content is out there. So if you are making videos, YouTube is definitely a place that you want to make sure that those videos live. All right, so take a moment and for your business specifically, consider the things that I just shared with you. Where are you not that you need to be? And where are you that you might need to pull back and go, we're spending a lot of time on this. Is this really valuable? Again, my 2 non-negotiables are Facebook and Google My Business. Those 2 are the non-negotiables for me. And a website. So if having a website is like square one, right? Google My Business and then Facebook right behind it. Any questions on those networks? If you think of something in a minute, write it in the chat. We'll come back to it, okay? All right, so another question that I get often is, how often should I post? For a small business, as a general rule of thumb, 2 to 3 times a week is good enough. And I say that because I understand that a business owner is busy. You're handling 47 other things. Posting daily might not be something that you're capable of, and that's okay. So the biggest question that I respond to that with is, what can you maintain? So if you go gung-ho and I'm going to post daily on everything, and then in 2 weeks, you're posting maybe once a week because you lost your steam, that's not helpful. And so making sure that you can maintain whatever expectation you're setting for yourself is the most important piece of how often should you post. The next question that I often get is, what should I post? And doing this as an exercise can be very helpful. I'm going to kind of run through it a little bit quickly, but if you'd like to, you can walk through pieces of this with me. There's 4 kind of main content buckets that apply to most businesses. Now, I understand that every business has their own different nuances and things, so not all 4 might apply to you, and I'll explain what I mean in a minute. Educational or value add, we're going to add value. We're going to teach somebody something. Promotional, we're going to engage with people, and we're going to create some content that might make somebody laugh. And really, that's the only one that's kind of optional. Eric, as an attorney, lawyer, I can't remember exactly which one, what field. However, that might be the only one that you leave off.
Okay.
Because it might not be appropriate to make a joke about a particular kind of case. You just need to be sensitive to those things. So that might be the only one that I might take off for you, but I'm sure there's some legal humor you could probably incorporate. So, all right. So if you want to do this with me, you're more than welcome to. We did this last week, Kelly, but feel free. So we're gonna take a coffee shop, and I'm gonna kind of walk through the 4 categories as a coffee shop. So educational value add, I'm going to think about things that I want to teach people. What's the difference between drip and pour over coffee? Is there a taste difference? Is there a temperature difference? There's 47 things you could talk about in terms of those two kinds of coffee. I am not a coffee connoisseur, but I have worked for a coffee shop. And so these things I have learned all of these things as a part of the process. Regions of coffee, so where the coffee comes from, what season it's harvested in, all of that makes a difference in the flavor profile of the coffee. The roasting process, so if we roast it longer, if we roast it shorter, what difference does that make to the taste and the level of caffeine? So taking a moment to think about the things that you can teach people. This is also one of those places where you can think, what questions do I get most often? So if there's a question that you answer over and over and over again, make sure it's in this bucket. What can you teach somebody to help them understand that same question that you get over and over again? All right, the next box is promotional. And you notice that promotional is one of the 4 boxes. This is a difficult thing for business owners to really grasp. We are not promoting our services 100% of the time. And we'll talk a little bit more about why later, but we're going to only promote 25 to 40%, 50 at the highest, depending on your type of content. And there's a way to turn an educational post into a promotion. So you can say, here's the difference between the two. And we have a special on our pour over coffee this week. Come in and have one. So you can turn that around into selling something without it being a true promotional post. So again, promotional things, they did a latte flavor of the month, a weekly special. It was a kind of a lunch combo thing. They featured their employees, which is definitely important. Even if you're a solopreneur, featuring your employees is important. Introduce yourself once a month or every other month to remind people and put a face to your brand. Customer quotes, any kind of testimonial that you can offer up and share. Anytime anybody else says something amazing about your business, it's much more powerful than you're saying that you're amazing. And so sharing those testimonials that you probably have on Facebook or Google My Business or on your website or on there. I know there's some other review sites out there, Nextdoor and things like that you can pull from. Behind the scenes photos. And so if there's things that you're working on an event, you're working on upcoming promotions, that sort of thing, a new box of something arrives and it's super cool, but you want to kind of keep it a little bit secret, share it. So behind the scenes things. The next one is fun posts. So these are things that are going to create a little more interest. They might also educate. So we'll kind of get to what that looks like. The first one that we included here was coffee jokes. There's tons of espresso and roasting. And if you went to Google your industry jokes, attorney jokes, technology jokes, you will find some. You may find some that are not your style or your flavor. You want a little bit more professional joke, and that's fine. You may kind of have to sift through them, but I guarantee you'll find at least a handful that you can use. The next one is the did you knows. So fun facts. We were in the workshop that Kelly was in with me last week. And I asked a lady, they run a facility for Down syndrome kids and their families. And I said, is there ever been a president or vice president that's had a Down syndrome child? And she looked at me, she goes, I don't know. I said, well, find out. And if there has been, share it, because that would be a neat, did you know? Or if there's somebody locally in our community that has that you could share and tell their story, that would be a cool, did you know? These could be history facts. These could mean tons of interesting things that you could share about your industry that that's common knowledge for you, but that other people might not know. And then the last one is national holidays. There's a national holiday for everything. And I'm going to show you my resource for that in a little bit, but there's a national holiday for Talk Like a Pirate and National Ice Cream Day and National, you name it, it's probably out there. So playing into those once or twice a month is a cool, fun thing to do. And then the last bucket is engaging. And this is where we're going to ask a question. We're going to cause people to respond in a certain way. How many of you have seen those posts recently on Facebook? I feel like I've seen 47 of them. It's Chick-fil-A, Target, Amazon, Starbucks. One of these 4 has to go. And it's got thousands of comments because people have been asked to leave a response. And so you'd have to figure out what that looks like for your brand in particular. But what you could do is asking that question and telling people what you want them to do. Comment with your favorite XYZ. Comment with your least favorite XYZ. So for them, we use, do you like hot coffee or iced coffee? Do you take your coffee with cream and sugar, or do you like it black? What do you like to go with your coffee, a muffin, scone, or a bagel? So those are just some of the engaging ideas that we had for them. So I would highly recommend that you take a sheet of paper, we did this last week, and split it in 4 and just kind of brain dump. Think about the things that you can share, write them all down. It doesn't mean you have to use them all right away, but take the time to do that. So here's the couple of websites that I like to use. The first one is called Answer the Public. Kelly, did you ever go back and get that to work outside of our Wi-Fi?
Oh, no, I didn't do my homework.
That's okay. I was just curious if you did or not.
No, I need to do that. Yeah, because it wouldn't let us, because we were all trying to get in there at the same time. So no, good reminder.
We were all on the same Wi-Fi, and Answer the Public, you can do, I think it's 2 searches for free per day, per device. I thought was the rule, but it apparently is not. It's per Wi-Fi connection. So there is a limit on this. There is also a paid version that you can pay for, but here's what Answer the Public does. It shows you what people are searching around your particular content area. And so for Kelly, we typed in public relations, and it showed us all sorts of different public relation things that people are searching for. Some of it is applicable to her, some of it's not. One of the things that I found when I searched social media about a year and a half ago was that a lot of people had questions or comments or thoughts on how does social media impact our mental health. Well, couple that with, I also work for a counseling center, and they were doing some social media pieces. So I was able to use my knowledge along with what they do. I've written some pieces on social media and mental health. So considering what people are asking also helps produce some content, whether it's blog posts or whether it's actual social media content. It's just kind of one of those, again, brain dump places that you might not like everything that you see, and that's okay. Pick and choose the things that you want and move on. Nationaldaycalendar.com is, again, that resource that I was sharing with you guys earlier. You can look at the national months, weeks, days, all of that's there. And then they even link to the resource. So like if it's National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, there's a link to the National Breast Cancer Awareness. You can get more details, and they might even have more information, more things that you can share on social. So that is October, if you're not aware. So if you have a connection to breast cancer in any form, that's something that you could share in October. That's actually October 1st is what, Friday? It's coming soon. The other thing that I suggest is follow someone in a similar industry that might be in another area. So you can follow people locally that do the same thing that you do, which is wonderful. Don't steal their ideas. That's not nice. Be careful with that because you're probably going to run across their paths, and we don't want to tick people off. Okay. So find somebody that's across the country. So, there are people that do social media, do what I do in other places in the country, obviously, and I follow them. And so they might pop up with something. I'm going, ooh, I could do that, but I want to do it this way. So take their idea and make it your own. Don't just steal. Take their idea, let it inspire you in creating your content. All right, so some best practices. These are just some kind of do's and don'ts. This is not my full list. This is the short list. Do post regularly. Again, back to that, how often should I post? It's what you can maintain. So if it's that 2 to 3 posts a week, wonderful. If it's daily, wonderful. If it's once a week, wonderful. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it regularly. Do make sure that you check your profiles updated, have your profiles updated, meaning that you're checking the websites, you're checking the email addresses, you're checking the addresses and the settings, all of the pieces to make sure that what's there is accurate. We were on somebody's profile last week and I pulled it up and they said, oh, that email we haven't used that email in years. Yikes. Have they missed out on business because of it? Maybe, I don't know. So making sure that those are updated. I set a reminder for myself quarterly. But if you do it twice a year, that might be good enough. You know your business and how often things change, but making sure that it's checked regularly. Do check your spelling and grammar. A couple of ways that I do that. The first way that I love is it's called Grammarly, and it's a grammar checker that you can download on your phone. You can download on your desktop as well, and it checks your grammar. It's wonderful. Grammarly is what it's called. The second thing that I do is I actually read content out loud. My husband thinks I've lost my mind, but when I'm up here, if I've written a batch of content, I will then read it out loud. And you'd be surprised how often your brain, as you're typing, I type fast, I leave out a word, and then the sentence doesn't make sense. So you want to go back to that content and reread it out loud, or have somebody else read it if you have that ability, if you've got somebody with you. Do give credit where credit is due. So if you use someone else's photo, make sure that you tag them in it. So if you've got a client that stops in, I don't have anybody that's probably got like a brick and mortar, like a restaurant, but somebody might watch later. If you have a brick and mortar, somebody comes in, takes a picture of their delicious food, ask for permission to use it. They will probably be flattered and say absolutely yes. If you then share it, make sure that you tag them, or that you give them credit, at least at the bottom, to say photo by Jane Smith, or whatever their name is. Okay. If you're not sure how to tag them, you want help with that, let me know. My only 2 don'ts for today are going to be, don't expand your social media platforms until you've cleaned up what you've mastered, before you master what you have in place, excuse me. So if you have Facebook and Google My Business and you're considering Instagram, just hold for a second. Make sure that you're posting regularly, that you're responding to people's comments, and then maybe in a month or so, add Instagram. There's no fire that says you have to add on platforms right away. If you really feel like you need to, go for it. I caution you on that. The last piece is, don't spam your audience. So if every post is an event or a product promotion, people will stop responding to your posts. So when people stop engaging with your post, it hurts what they call your engagement rate. It's the number of people that like, click, link, comment on your post over the number of people that actually see your content. So if that engagement rate starts to go down, Facebook starts to show your information to your audience even less and less. And so we want to make sure that that engagement rate doesn't take a tank. So we do that by educating, making people laugh, monitoring the 4 buckets. Okay. So what resources can I use to be productive on social media? So the first thing is schedule content. I sit down once a month for myself. For clients, it may be in batches, it may be weekly, but I sit down periodically and do content. So Creator Studio is built into Facebook, and it can schedule Facebook and Instagram. If you're on your business profile, on the left-hand side, it says content publishing. I can't remember. I believe it's content publishing. On the right-hand side, it says publishing. Click on that. It will take you to Creator Studio, and you'll be able to schedule for Facebook and Instagram. It might prompt you to reconnect your Instagram page if there's any connection issue between your Facebook and Instagram, and you can schedule those. The one that's off of here are a couple of them actually. Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitter, those can't be scheduled through Facebook. So you might need another tool. Hootsuite and Buffer are similar. You up to 3 accounts for free. So if you have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you're good. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you're good. But if you add a 4th one, then you're over their limit, and you do have to pay for it. Now, Buffer, up to 8 accounts, is $15 a month. So it's really very, very affordable. It's not something that's way out of line. I include Later as the last one because it actually, you can schedule reminders for stories. Now, I did learn in the last little while that Facebook has added stories to be scheduled within Creator Studio, which is a big deal. Used to be stories you could not schedule at all. You had to do those live. And so now that that's an option, you can do that within Creator Studio, and you can schedule those stories. So that's stories, if you're not familiar, are the 24-hour posts that live. If you're on Instagram, they're at the top in the bubbles, or on Facebook, they're kind of at the top in the little bubbles. You can click on it. It's a full screen vertical story. All right. The last piece is hashtags. A lot of people ask me, how many hashtags should I use? What should I be using them? There's a lot of factors that play into that. What I like to suggest for people is that you use 2 to 3 captions, 3 ideally, on every single post on every single platform. That goes for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it, it should probably be there. And that should be one that's company specific, one that's industry specific, and then another one that is post specific. So what is actually in the content of your post? So if we go back to that coffee shop, it could be hashtag XYZ coffee shop. The industry specific could be hashtag shop local, hashtag local coffee, hashtag coffee brewer, lots of options that we could have there. And then the third one would be post specific. So if I'm posting about a latte, I'm going to say hashtag latte art, whatever is specific to that post itself. Now, you can add 12 to 15 additional ones, up to 30, but it's not recommended to use up to 30, 12 to 15 on Instagram. Do not share that 12 to 15 on Facebook. A couple of reasons that I don't suggest that. The first one is it looks unprofessional. It just looks messy. And I like clean posts. I like pretty things. So 12 to 15 can be added on Instagram, either underneath the post or ideally as the first comment of the post, so that it's kind of hidden in the comments. And then the last thing that I'll share with you is the hashtag generator. So this is a website that I have used. It's inflact.com. It's a hashtag generator. You put in a topic and it gives you the frequent, average, and rare. So I'm going to go advanced on strategy here because I don't have on our time. But if I'm going to do 12 extra hashtags, I might take 4 from the frequent, 4 from the average, 4 from the rare. That's 12 hashtags that I'm going to add as a hashtag bank. So you can actually do this for your brand once and then use the same hashtag bank over and over again. Now, you might have more than one if there's specific pieces of your business. So you might have one for one element or one product or service, and then another one for another product or service. So you could have more than one hashtag bank, but ideally you could do this once and then revisit it every quarter at the same time that like we talked about a second ago, that you make sure that all your profiles are updated. You can also update your hashtags as well. All right, the last 2 things. I'm going to leave you with 2 final words. The first one is consistent, and the second one is responsive. If you leave me with nothing else today, these are the 2 things that you should be in social media. And I say social, wish I could put like an underline, bold my speech. Social media. Social media should be social. So if you're not engaging with other people, engaging in groups, and when I say you, it doesn't have to be you. It could be whoever's running the social media for your brand. Okay. Consistent. That means that I'm posting that 2 to 3 times a week or daily, whatever is the most efficient for you that you can maintain. And then responsive. If somebody leaves a comment on your business picture, your post, or even a review, they deserve a response and not a simple like of their comment. I would highly recommend that you write text. Thank you so much for visiting. Thank you. We love serving you. However you can engage them with text, even ask a question, especially if it's a review, ask a question if they made a mention of something. Get them to engage a couple more times. That helps in your engagement rate. So consistent and responsive. Those are the 2 pieces that I want to leave you with today. And then I actually did pretty well. I was worried about fitting it all in. So are there any questions?
Yeah, this is Eric. I don't understand hashtags and how they're helpful, what they do.
Sure. So a couple of ways that they're helpful on Instagram, most specifically. It does this on the other networks as well, but Instagram most specifically, there's 2 ways. The first way is that people can actually search. So on Instagram, if you see a hashtag, you can actually click on it and see other posts that have used that same hashtag. So for example, if CABA regularly use CABA, USECABA, you could click on it and theoretically see other CABA businesses if that was a way that we wanted to promote that. So it's great for events. It's great for, we used it heavily recently, a client at a church, and they definitely, we use their hashtag, XYZ church, I won't say it, but XYZ church. And then I could search that hashtag and see anybody else that had used it. So any of their patrons or any of that, I can engage with them that way. The other way that it's useful is in the algorithm. So if you like content that has specific hashtags associated with it, it will actually show you more content that is similar to that. So it kind of helps Instagram determine what kind of content you are and who it should be showing it to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, to some degree, yes. Okay. And then with following other people, should you follow people that are your competitors, or should you stay away from that?
I don't have in my particular industry, I don't mind following other social media managers. And I don't think it's a bad thing for you to follow them, to follow within your industry as well. a couple of reasons. It could give you some content ideas, but then the other piece of it is that it shows a little bit more of that community over competition thought process. And so if they have a client that doesn't fit exactly what they do, but you're a good fit for that, they might be more apt to refer them to you if they know who you are and what you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I mean, it's certainly highly competitive in what I do.
It's
Yeah.
a little bit of a different animal, and I understand that. So I mean, I don't think following others is hurtful by any stretch. And now if you're going to follow them, you're going to like every single thing, and I saw this on a business recently. They had somebody come in, and on every single comment, somebody came in and spammed each individual person. And so that's tacky. Don't do that. That would be my only caution to engaging in somebody else's content.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a quick hashtag question that I've heard come up a couple of times lately. So a restaurant client of mine, we were hashtagging what we thought was a pretty broad hashtag because a lot of restaurants will tag Tampa Eats, New Tampa Eats. So I actually had one of the owners call and say, well, somebody owns that hashtag, so we can no longer use that. Can somebody own a hashtag?
So you can trademark a hashtag.
Okay.
Outside of owning it, that's the only thing I have ever heard. Now, I will tell you, caveat, find a business attorney to ask that question to, because I'm not a business attorney, but you can trademark a hashtag. Outside of that, you can't really tell somebody they can't use it.
Right.
If somebody really wanted to stop you from using it, and there's two schools of thought. They've asked you not to use it, perhaps. Is that what's happened?
Well, it came from my client, the owner.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. It was just, be very careful when we say, hashtag New Tampa Eats. And I'm like, and what's cool about that, I think, is that it does show the delicious food from the restaurant. Right. So I thought, and it really wasn't my idea, it was the owner's idea. And so now, like, well, yeah, somebody, and I don't know, is it a competitor? I have no idea. But somebody has said, hey, that hashtag belongs to so-and-so. You need to be careful about using it.
Well, and so if they feel like they have rights to it, that's one thing. But if they truly have a trademark or they've applied for the trademark, that's a different story. Then yes, they do own that. If they just feel like it's theirs, especially something as generic as New Tampa Eats, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
And I doubt somebody has spent the time and money to file a trademark on that hashtag.
Yeah.
So there's two schools of thought. Are you really willing to continue to hashtag it and potentially piss somebody off? I don't know. Or, if you just keep using it, I guarantee nobody's paid for that. That's crazy.
Yeah. I had just never heard that until very recently.
Own a hashtag, unless it's their company name, something super specific, but
right.
That's too generic. So any other questions? We got about 15 or so minutes.
I have a million questions, Jessica, but I'll catch up with you later. I always have a million questions, but I don't want to take up your time or anyone else's today.
Should when you're posting our links, something that you would encourage people to put in? Like if I comment on a story about whatever, an automobile accident or whatever, and the story came from some other source, do you link that other source so that whoever's looking at your post can go to that source? Is that encouraged?
If it's helpful or if the expertise really isn't yours. So I would say yes, if you're sharing, this was a recent case here in Tampa. Here are my thoughts on it. And then here's the link to read the full thing, maybe. Can you give me maybe an example that I could?
Well, for instance, if I posted something about some statistics even from the Department of Motor Vehicles and Highway Safety, the number of, I don't know, automobile crashes involving bicycles. And I had that in my post. Would I want to link the statistic to wherever I got it from?
Yeah, I would definitely say yes. And especially when it deals with data, definitely link, or at minimum at the bottom, say source DMV, Florida DMV, whether you link it or not, at least having that, giving them credit for the data, highly recommend. Yes. It doesn't mean that link has to be the link preview. So, and I don't know everybody's knowledge. So when you share a link on Facebook, it can pop up with a link preview. So you could actually remove the link preview if you'd rather have an image of something be the primary focus versus the link of the other article, and just having it be in the bottom of your caption. That's what I would recommend doing.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is it okay to post the same thing? Like if your two main sources of posting are Facebook and LinkedIn, is it okay to be posting the same thing on both of those social media? So you're not spamming people that way, or there's not something that's more appropriate for LinkedIn than it would be for Facebook, or vice versa?
No, that as a general rule, I say yes, go for it. So my thought process on content is that the same piece of content is going to go on every network that I have on a specific day. It may go at a different time. It might look a little different. So on Facebook, it's going to have the link, and on Instagram, it's going to have a different image. So the look of it might be slightly different. However, the same content is going to be on all three. And no, you're not. I don't believe that you're spamming your folks. A couple of reasons for that. Not everybody follows you on all of your socials. And the other piece is if they see it more than once in a day, so they've been scrolling on Facebook in the morning and then they flip over to, LinkedIn in the afternoon, is it really terrible if they see it twice? I don't think so. It's kind of one of those moments where I would go, man, I've seen this twice. Okay, I really need to check into whatever this is. So I would say go for it.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's always good to post more frequently because that way you get more response. If you're trying to engage your audience, we do that a lot with our posts on the radio stations.
Yes, definitely. And that's, if you can work up to that 3 to 4 or 5 times a week, that's awesome. Even daily is awesome and great. I wouldn't on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, I would not go more than once a day. Twice, maybe if you have a special event, something pops up or there's a news article, something super important that you can't not say that day. But once a day is plenty on those 3.
Is there any, does Facebook or any of the platforms, if you are posting too much, can you be hurt in the algorithm? Can you get put in like spammer jail?
I don't know spammer jail, but what happens is if I post something in the morning, 7, 8 o'clock, and it lives, and then I post something else. Well, now I've kind of not paused, but I've kind of killed that first post. And so that engagement for that particular post is kind of stopped because now I have new content. And so the engagement for this piece is going to live until maybe I post something at 5 o'clock. Well, 3 pieces in one day, basically at the end of the day, somebody's that's scrolling, before they go to bed, what are they going to see? They're probably going to see that last post of the day. So your first 2 are going to have lower engagement rates, and that's going to overall kill your engagement rate. So long story short, yes, because it's too much. So yes, I believe there is such a thing as too much. You don't give it enough time to breathe.
So then are there timing issues with when you should post? So you should post, like I don't want to post something at midnight because
Nobody's awake.
nobody's going to look at it, and then it scrolls through to other people's content, I guess.
Sure. So consider the times that your particular audience would be scrolling on their phones. So as a general rule, people, normally sometimes they get up and they'll scroll their phones as they're having a cup of coffee or as they're kind of getting the kids ready for the day. They might, depending on who they are, what occupation they have, they might take a lunch break and they might be sitting on their phone at lunch. They might also do the same thing at the end of the day, whether that's once they've gotten home or once they've put the kids to bed, that sort of thing. So thinking about that, if I post at 6 a.m., I'm probably going to catch that morning crew. If I post at 11:30, I'm probably going to catch that lunch crew. And if I post later in the day, I'm going to catch that afternoon crew. Now, caveat is every page is different and your audience is different. And so testing that out throughout a week, if you're going to post 3 times a week, and if you've never done this, I highly recommend it. Do it 3 times a week, but post Monday in the morning, Wednesday at lunchtime, and Friday in the afternoon. And just see what you get. And then maybe the next week, vary it up. Do Monday afternoon, Wednesday morning, and Friday at lunchtime. And see what happens. See how your audience responds to those posts. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then there's some sort of dashboard to record how much interaction you have, or you're just looking at your.
Yes. So let me see if I'll jump over here and share. Since we have a couple minutes, if that's okay. Of course, my internet's going to be slow. So if this is your page, and this is where your business page should look similar to this, this is on Facebook. Publishing tools is the item where I was telling you earlier that you can schedule content. So down here in the bottom where it says insights, this is where a lot of the great data is, and you could dive into this and get lost. So just, I caution you on, there's a lot of great data, but be careful. So within this, if I go down to posts, you can actually see, so if I look at the days of the week, it kind of shows me when my audience might be more active than others. The peak is here at 5 o'clock. So hitting this window here for this peak at 5 o'clock might be the best for me. But then you can look down here at the posts that have been published. And so you can see, you look at the reach, and then you can also look at the engagement. Now, keep in mind, these are my business profiles, and it's almost like the cobbler's children have no shoes. Sometimes my social gets pushed to the back burner because I'm focusing on clients. So these numbers are not impressive. I'm not showing you because I think it's wonderful. But this is where that data would be. So organic, 136 people. We've had 2 engagements. You can also modify this. So if you want to see if you've done paid promotion, you can modify that here. You can also modify what you see. So if it's reactions, comments, or you can see your engagement rate. So you'll see 3, 7, 16, 3, 4. So anything above, do you know what the average engagement rate for social media is?
No.
0.25%.
Wow.
So if you're hitting anything above 0.25%, pat yourself on the back. That also kind of goes with, a lot of my clients feel bad about their email open rates. Average email open rate is anywhere from 12 to 17%. If you have anything better than that, you're doing amazing. I have a client she had a 47% rate. She was beating herself up for it. And I said, absolutely not. 47% of your clients are opening your emails. That's amazing. So just being aware of what is norm is helpful to go, okay, that's not so bad. Yes, 2%, 16% sounds, 7% sounds low. When you put it into perspective, it's not too terrible. Okay. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
Jessica, I've got one other question for you, kind of related to what Eric's question was. I think it's Hootsuite. Now, it could be somewhere on the back end of Facebook, but I think in Hootsuite, I used to benchmark. So I wasn't following my competition, but I was benchmarking. I was saying like, okay, but I might have done it in Facebook, but I'm thinking it was in Hootsuite. Like, here are my 10 top competitors. And that was helpful. No, I was not copying them, but it did give me a good feel for where they were in reach, where they were in engagement, how big their audience was, how many followers they had. And it was just a good benchmark for me. Oh, there you go. So it is in Facebook.
Here on the
pages to
overview,
watch.
so this is on page. Page Insights, this is your overview tab. At the very bottom, there's called Pages to Watch. And there may be a function similar in Hootsuite, but this I know for sure is in here. So you can add pages that are similar to yours or that are in some, like I worked for a church. And so I watched the churches that were local to us just purely out of curiosity. What are they doing? What's working? What's not working? That sort of thing. Even churches that were further away, you can follow competition that's hundreds of miles away. So this is a great little tool to help you do that. And it doesn't, some people get nervous about it, but they're sharing my data with somebody else. Well, yeah, but I mean, I could find this information out if I just went to your page. Like, this is not private information. And so, if I wanted to calculate how many posts you made this week, I could do that. If I wanted to see how many engagements you had this week, I could do that. They just make it a little simpler. So yeah, this is absolutely where it is.
Thank you.
What about the insights for LinkedIn, Jessica? Is there some way you can look this up on LinkedIn as well?
Yes. The other thing I was going to show you guys before we click off of Facebook, if you go all the way down here to people, this is where I got that table that shows the percentage and the age. This is my fans specifically, my followers specifically. And it also shows me geographically where they are as well. So that can be helpful. Yes, on LinkedIn, under analytics, you've got a couple of different things here. So you can see visitors, how many visitors you've had, updates. Also, like, here's the different posts and how many impressions. Not too many impressions on my content these last couple of weeks. I just don't feel comfortable showing you guys a client that would probably give us better data. But yes, there's a lot of pieces here. There are also, and this is new here, the competitor section. So you can actually choose I don't want to add any more. There we go. So you can see Pegasus has more followers than me, has had more new followers than me, but so there's a good, that same thing there. I guess it automatically chose Spark and C4 Social.
Pegasus also experiences that the cobbler's children never have new shoes. So that number should be higher.
So yes, there are some analytics within here as well. So you can also look at your followers. You can see how many total, how many new ones. You can see all. You can also see where they are geographically. And this is really cool. You can see their job function.
Nice.
You can see their seniority, industry, companies. So there's a lot that you can do here. Kind of the same thing here. You can kind of get lost in this, but definitely a lot of good data. So a lot of my followers are already in marketing and advertising, which is great.
What about the engagement, the views that you get for your posts? Because I'm always getting, alerts, comment on this post, you're getting a lot of engagement. But what's like the average? I mean, what's a really good gauge for views on LinkedIn?
Oh, I don't have any data on LinkedIn specifically off the top of my head.
Okay.
So I will see if I can find some, but the other thing that's powerful is whenever you do post something on your business, you can actually notify your employees. Did they take that away? You used to be able to notify your employees. Uh-oh, make a liar out of me. You used to be able to notify your employees whenever they page post. Hold on. There we go. There we go. So after you make a post, you can actually notify your employees that something new has come from your page. And that's an internal conversation with your employees to say, hey, listen, you're going to get some notifications on LinkedIn about new content from us. Share it. And it's as simple as them coming in and resharing content. It's not going to show the share button because I'm logged in as my page, but share that post to your own, your own page. That organic engagement that's a little bit manufactured is not bad. If you can, especially in networking groups, when you have that call to action to say, hey, I'd appreciate if you could go share the last post that we made. That would be great. That's something that you can do in these networking events when what is the ask? sure, there's a referral that could be sent to you, but immediately you can go like my LinkedIn page and share the last post that we did. That's really powerful. And it's organic because LinkedIn doesn't know that you've just asked them to do that. So